Recently, the remarkable 52-voice PaTram Institute Male Choir released their outstanding recording of Rachmaninoff's All-Night Vigil. Under the direction of Ekaterina Antonenko, the PaTram Institute Male Choir has taken arrangements of the Vigil service by Rachmaninoff and adapted them so that they could record a full performance of this 15-section masterwork. The result is a CD that has some otherworldly sonorities throughout, these deep, rich, gorgeous sonorities encapsulating the beauty and profundity of the music. And joining me here over Zoom to talk about PaTram's recording of the Rachmaninoff All-Night Vigil, I am joined by the legendary octavist singer, Glenn Miller. Hey, Glenn, nice to meet you here over Zoom.
Great meeting you here. I'm so excited about this. Thank you
Mhm,
for having me.
mhm. I guess my first question is, how does it feel to have the recording finally come out?
Oh, we were so excited when this whole project started and just couldn't wait for it to get out. But it took a little time, but just, so worth the wait. And it was a long project because of the pandemic. It took a
Mhm.
while,
Yeah.
because, in terms of location and the pandemic and all of that, and finally it settled in Jerusalem, which was just, I think, providential.
Yeah, yeah. The C was recorded to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Rachmaninoff's birth. It was recorded, as you say, in 2022. But one of the cool things about this recording is you recorded it at the Church of the Ascension in Jerusalem, which is on the Mount of Olives. Can you,
Yes.
can you talk about that recording? And
Oh,
I'm presuming you must have given concerts there as well. What was that
well,
whole
we
thing
did
like?
two concerts. We did
Mhm.
two concerts, but we didn't do a concert on the Mount of Olives. We did one in an auditorium near where we were staying, and which wasn't it was an auditorium. It
Yeah.
wasn't a cathedral acoustic. And then we did the second Nazareth at the Basilica of Jesus's Adolescence, which I kind of thought was an hysterical name for a church. But we did two concerts, and then we we did the recording on the Mount of Olives in the Church of the Ascension, and we had that's where we also did our rehearsals.
Yeah. And what was it like just being in that space?
Uh, it just kind of blew your mind. It
Yeah.
just here we are at one of the holiest places of the Christian Judeo tradition.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just got the ascension there. John the evidently John the Baptist, that has a deep connection there. I guess in the chapel there, I don't know if it was his head or something that's there or something like that.
Yeah.
And but just going back even to the Old Testament times, it just the whole experience being in the Holy Land, because they were so generous to us all in taking us to all the places and singing liturgies in all the places. We did sing a liturgy when we first got there at Ascension.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I saw a video that was on YouTube, and it has the choir singing. I guess there's different rooms at the Church of the Ascension, and you were singing in those. Is that right? Or
There were a couple things that we did, but actually we did two. We did a proper Sunday liturgy in the church, and then there also it was the I think the 40th day after the repose of the major patriarch, and so in that in the Orthodox tradition, that's a big deal,
yeah.
and so we did the funeral whatever, I guess requiem. I can't remember the exact title, but that was in another space. Yes,
Mhm.
you know.
Uh, you spend your life in the basement of the choir, giving the ensemble the sumptuous, rich color. For those listeners who don't know what an octavist is, can you briefly describe what it is you do?
Well, I didn't know the term octavus until about, I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago. But essentially, I think it's kind of what the name suggests. We sing an octave down below the normal bass notes, pretty much. And so I guess that's that in a nutshell. You know, in Orthodox music, of course, that's a major characteristic of it. And we basically sing a lot of times below the bass staff, you know.
Yeah. Like B flat one
Yes.
or zero thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Ledger
it's just
lines,
yeah, lots underneath the bass clef.
lots,
Yeah.
you
Uh,
know.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It comes across on the disc amazingly well. Um, the PaTram Institute Choir is sort of a super group. It's made up of singers from all over the world.
Yes.
Uh, how many recordings is this for you with them? My understanding is that with Elite Octavists, you all sort of know each other. So it's like
Yes.
when you get together as a crew, does it feel like the band is getting back together?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like that, you know, and it's that, you know, and we kind of have a following, you know, like, and people keep tabs of us, you know. Um, in regards to PaTram, the Patriarch Tikhon Russian American Music Foundation, I've done, let's see, I've done one, two, three, four recordings. There's a couple more that are out that I wasn't able to do that actually were done in before the pandemic in Russia. But the founder of PaTram he's also an activist, and he's the man you hear at the very beginning of the recording. He's been very blessed financially and very committed to this music. And so it's been kind of his mission in life to document and bring to life recordings, and also through performance. And across, you know, we had singers from all over the world. And the Rachmaninov project, I think, really was the mountain, was the peak of all of his endeavors. And in fact, I just in correspondence with him the past few days, and just kind of recollecting about how, you know, this really was kind of the pinnacle for us all.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of logistical planning that happens to bring the choir together. When you get called in to do a recording and performances with them, what is your initial reaction, and what is it that you particularly enjoy about singing with the group?
Um, well, you know, this was a huge endeavor logistically, getting us all there from all corners of the world, you know, for
Yeah.
that. And that was just, I can't imagine putting that all together. And in this project, in particular, because there were people from so many different places, you know, it really was um, mind-boggling, that were being brought together. You know, who knows? And their life stories and all that type of thing, and particularly with the world situation these days, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, the sense of community, social media kind of keeps us in touch with each other pretty well, with all that's going on in that corner of the world. It's a bit interesting, but you know, we just kind of share this special bond, you know, having been taken to, and to be afforded the opportunity and grace to bring this piece to and this recording to fruition.
Hmm.
Mm.
Uh, the choir's recorded this absolutely stunning version of the Rachmaninoff All-Night Vigil. It's a version for three soloists: contratenor, tenor one, baritone two, bass one, bass two, and octavists.
It
Can
just goes
you
on and on.
yeah. Can you talk about the arrangements? What kinds of things needed to be done to the music so that it could be performed for male chorus?
You know, two things. They had to first, you know, transpose a number of the movements, you know,
Mm,
down. And they had to do some rearranging, you know, relocating, you know, things that were sung by sopranos. Who's gonna do it? And make some adjustments like that. I think that they did. I think they did a really good job with this. There's a lot of, a lot of um, attention, of course, to make to it all. And one thing that that I thought was really successful is the way the individual movements through the transpositions connected with each other on this recording, the way the sequence of the movements unfolds. It feels like a whole, the recording, you know, not just a bunch of, okay, here we have it in this key. Particularly when we go from movement five to movement six. You know, that
mm,
in the regular version, you know, the movement five, which is the one with the tenor solo, and it has the B flat descending scale. You know, it's in B flat.
yeah.
and in the SATB version, the next movement's in F, but in this, it stays in the same key, and it kind of it sheds some fresh light on,
Mm.
on the sixth movement, and you can and thing can be said throughout the entire work. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading, apparently Alexander Rachmaninov transposed the seventh
Yes.
piece down a fifth, and then there's
Mhm.
also arrangements that have been done by Dmitry Lazarev and Benedict Sheehan
Yes.
to sort of
Yes.
put
It
it
started
together.
with Dmitri, and then it kind of moved on to Benedict. And I mean, Benedict, of course, is just he's a dear friend of mine. He's an incredible composer in this tradition. He's done, he's got he's got such high stature. He's written incredible music.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so he really got it, and was really.
Can you talk about the importance of staying true to the original version, to the original Rachmaninoff version? The choir involvement in that, as well as Ekaterina Antonenko's, like how much attention was paid to that throughout the rehearsals?
Well, I think in terms of, from a musical standpoint, just being respectful of, Rachmaninoff's tempi and dynamic shading and everything. Of course, this is it's someone was doing a little check on timings with this recording, and it's one of the slowest ones, but it doesn't feel slow. It feels like it's spacious,
Yeah.
and the piece has a chance to breathe. And Ekaterina is just amazing. And she guided us along with so many beautiful magical moments, like her ability to have us sustain a diminuendo, and it just keeps coming or keeps disappearing and disappearing, and all of a sudden it's gone, so controlled, and but also because of this whole project was so deeply rooted in the Orthodox Church, with, I would say, maybe, of course, all the singers that were not from the United States, that were from Moscow or Kiev or Serbia or even Australia, were Orthodox.
Mhm.
So, these texts are just, flip the switch and you know, they've been singing these texts and this music since, birth, so,
Yeah.
and that was another thing. When we would sing all these liturgies in these holy places like Gethsemane and Church of the Holy Sepulchre and Bethlehem and Mount Tabor. And they just do all this stuff from memory, and it's not just Vespers or um, Divine Liturgy pieces, but Psalms, and from it just goes on and on and on. I think I kind of feel a little lame standing next to them. Who am I, or who are we? Us Americans. Or
Uh, yeah, I mean, the work it's in 15 sections. 10 of the sections are set to traditional
Mhm.
Orthodox chant, and then there's 5 sections that are purely of Rachmaninoff's creation. Can you tell the difference between the settings of the original chant and Rachmaninoff's creation? Like
You
for you as a
know,
singer?
he's very much in the vein of the chants. They sound like they were they're the real thing. And so, well, that's Rachmaninoff's genius. And so that adds cohesion to the whole work.
Yeah,
It all fits together.
mm. But yet, one of the things I find so interesting about Rachmaninoff is he didn't strike me as a particularly religious person. I mean, especially in his adult life, but he must have had some exposure to the church. I mean, he knew the
Oh, sure.
chants,
Well,
and
he grew up.
he grew up in
He
that
grew up in the church, and
in that
the church
tradition.
in Russia, it's as much church as it is, just culture. That's just
Yeah,
it's just the culture.
yeah. I was reading a statement where he says, like, growing up as a child, it was the sound of church bells that he heard throughout
Hmm.
his childhood, and just it- maybe perhaps one of the reasons why bells play such an important role in some of his compositions, notably
Oh
the
yeah,
the
sure, the
bells.
bells, and then
Yeah,
there's spots in the Vespers, where those interjections, and with it's all the bell thing.
Mm-mm. Uh, Now that you've had the experience of recording the vigil with the men of the PaTram Institute Male Chorus, do you ever find yourself reminiscing about it, about that experience when you're performing it in the
It,
original version?
yes, on a number of levels, or actually two levels. I've done this in concert so many times. I've been
Mhm.
doing this since 1989. With everybody, and this was my fifth professional recording of the work,
Oh wow.
and so I know it pretty well. But still now, and it wasn't until that I started singing Orthodox liturgies that I really started to understand more fully the soil from which this music comes and this work is about. Why the sequence is the way of the movements is the way it is, why the texts are where they are, and all that type of thing. That said, now I just had a couple. I've done three concert performances just in the past 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yay, great. People are hearing the music and everything. But when the combination of doing it in the Holy Land with this group and just being with these guys, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's just not it's I don't want to diminish the concerts that I do. um but it's I've said to some people that I've done it in concert with, conductors, and they all want to they like to pick my brain a bit about
Uh,
it, since I've kind of done it a lot. And I said, and as I said, it wasn't until I started singing an Orthodox liturgy that I started to get it. And that's something that I encourage them to dig into, just to
yeah.
just to taste the water, just to drink some of the water, regardless of what your faith tradition is. um, and to know more as fully as possible what these texts are,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
where Rachmaninov was, what he does with them, and that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. In regards to performing it a lot, when the PaTram's CD came out, More Honorable Than Cherubim, my colleague here at the station, he actually talked with Elias Dubelston, who is a
Oh
Canadian.
yeah, he's
And
great.
yeah, and Elias, he says in the interview, he says, whenever there's a performance of the all night vigil, you need to call in, octavists to make that happen. So he
Mhm.
said he likened it sort of like you play the circuit.
Yes, we do. Yeah, yeah. Elias was on in the Jerusalem project, I'm sure you know, and we've done a number of things together. I think that was the last one we did. We had something, and it was during COVID, and he couldn't get out of Canada, so
Yes. Yeah, there is that. Uh,
no.
are, are there any plans for the choir to tour? I'm just thinking it'd be great to get you here in Canada
Oh,
so we
I
could
know
ring you and
we'd
purpose
love
them.
to. I know Alex Lukianoff is kind of really focused right now on he lives in Florida,
Mhm.
Miami area, and his church has just bought a property to be an Orthodox cathedral.
Oh,
So,
wow.
oh yeah, it's a really big deal. And they just closed on the property, and when I wrote him to commend him on that, congratulate him, and he said he feel like he's been just kind of drinking out of a fire hose, right? Lately, it's just been so much. And so I know we would love to do some things again, but I think that's kind of, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, the Jerusalem was, how do you can't top it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It
and
is it's so magical. And then the recording that came out of it as a result is spectacular.
yeah.
Glenn, this has just been such a thrill to meet you and talk about this phenomenal recording. I'm going to go home and turn up my subwoofer and listen to the Octavist.
you know,
Uh,
there were eight of us in that
yeah, I
recording.
know.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it
And
was kind of, and Ekaterina, when this project first was kind of finally coalescing. I was doing another project with our recording person, Blanton Allspaw. And I mean, it was for a Benedictine work.
Mhm.
I think it was for his Vespers or his St. John Chrysostom, one of the two. And we got this, and he said, this Jerusalem thing, and he said, "You're doing this, you know." And of course I was. And he said, "And you're gonna just love this conductor. It's that she's the right person at the right time." And I had to hand it to her, you know. Here she has how many 50 some men, or a lot of them, you know, are, particularly in the Octavus session, are just kind of big bulls, you know, having to manage all that, you know. And she just handled it fine. Well, we all fell in love with her too. She's such a, you know, but so good, you know. And so it was great.
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah. And the eight octavists are, from my understanding, is they're in front of the choir too. So
Yeah, they're kind of in. We were in the center
okay.
of the ensemble. As you looked at the choir, as you faced the choir, we were in the center, and the baritones were on the right, and the tenors were kind of on the left, and the countertenors and all that type of thing. And I was right in the front, because my voice tends to bind voices together because of its resonance.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you know, there's a thing with Octavus. Sometimes it's easy for it to get woofy, you know, and to lose that sense of point and steadiness. So I know Ekaterina was very intentional about having me be kind of the head goose and the gackle, you know. You know, having all the other geese behind me kind of funnel into what I was doing. So, um,
Fantastic. Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Glenn, this has just been such a treat to meet you. All the best. And thanks for making the time to talk to me today. This recording is fantastic.
My pleasure. It's so great to meet you and talk with you. Thank you so much.